Hey guys, I thought I'd give this a go because obviously there's. I thought I'd just record a little tour of my base, or just a little tour to start off with of my base, just so you could see some of the stuff I've done, in case you're interested. So just collecting from that cow pats and bones. So I kind of wanted in the redwoods. This is Olympus, and it stopped raining. Thank God for that. So I quite liked the idea this time around of building without kind of disturbing the landscape. So I thought I would build onto these rocks and to kind of make it look as undisturbed as possible. I just thought just a challenge. It was just a bit of a challenge for me to see whether I could do it, because we've got S Plus foundation support turned off on this server. I can do a whole load of things that I've never been able to do before, which was really exciting. So I started off in this area of the map, and I found this kind of cool spot that's a plateau with a little these kind of rocks going down the hill, and I just thought that would be an interesting challenge for me. So what I've done, God, I'm not sure how I feel about these things, just like little cow turds in my base everywhere. So I thought I'd build on the top of this rock and come down the hill. And so what I've done is I've actually kind of, in a lot of places I haven't removed anything, so I haven't taken any of the rocks away from this area pretty much at all. Haven't taken any of the trees out, haven't taken any of the bushes out. In fact, actually quite a lot of places I've added trees and bushes. Not gone too crazy, but I've done little things. And I like things to look kind of non-uniform, so in lots of places I've just tried to do things that are out of the norm. That's what I usually do when I'm building an arc, just for my own benefit, to be honest. But I thought some people might like to see some of the things I've done, and to get ideas from them, or that's one of the things I watch a lot of art content, so I quite like seeing what other people have done. So little things like, even though having just noticed it, this really pains me, is that space is slightly different to that space, so I will have to go back and fix that at some point. But yeah, just talking in terms of non-uniform, so those are the flower boxes, but obviously I've customized them with some plants and flowers just to make them look a little bit less regular and a little bit more realistic, because they wouldn't all look exactly the same in reality. And then obviously this is a strange dinosaur kingdom we all live in. I quite like it looking real as much as I can. So to the point of things like, even though we could have this all floating, I don't really like that. I like the aesthetic of, for my personal preference, of things looking like they are supported. But the cool thing about having the structure support switched off, S Plus structure foundations switched off, is that you can make your own way of supporting things rather than having to use the rules that Arc gives you. So for example here, I don't think this actually requires any support anyway, but for me I just preferred the aesthetic of making that pillar look like it's supporting that ceiling up there. It's not really at all, but that ceiling is actually, I think, is just floating, or is just extended off that side. But yeah, so I like those things. They kind of give me pleasure. So this was the first section. Purple drop, I would definitely be running for that. This was the first section I built, and I found this little area, and it's got a natural, and I've obviously since spread down there, don't look at all that mess down there, but it's got a natural kind of defence to it, because this is obviously this little plateau, and you get this cool view. Anyway, quiet, recording. So the first thing I did when I moved in here was basically just wall off this little section around this rock, and then didn't have a lot of space, and I didn't really want to take up loads of space because a bunch of the guys had already built, and I didn't want to take up a massive area in the woods because I'm quite near to the CC, so I thought I'd just build something fairly modest. And it's also just sort of my aesthetic style is that I kind of like things to be relatively compact. So a few things. So what I'm going to do is just show you things that I don't know, just things that are a bit different, and maybe things that you probably didn't notice. Monkey Puzzle just had this on his stream, and this is kind of the reason why I'm doing this video, is because there's a whole load of things in here that are I didn't actually show that they look really simple, and that's kind of the idea, is that they look, the overall look is simple, and you don't look at it and go, oh my god, how's he done that? It just looks different, and it is different to standard. So even little simple things like I have these two kind of loading areas. This was my original like loading area, so my diners come in through this gate and park here, and I needed to unload them. So, and I don't have a lot of space, so I didn't want massive, great big areas that had buildings that had vaults in it. I kind of like this, and because you've got the puller, you don't really need to have things that are close to your workstations anymore. So I wanted my vaults outside, but you can't place the S Plus or the vanilla vault on the floor. So in order to do that, I had to clip a foundation from all the way over here to get just low enough to the floor, because I couldn't have it floating and I wanted it. And once you get it over to the place you want it, then I've placed somewhere, you probably can't even see it anymore, is a glass foundation, and I've done this in a lot of places where I've used the glass pieces to get me out of trouble, because you can place glass down and you can the metal glass from S Plus, you can hide all the sides and the model, so it just hides it away and you don't really notice. So, and then one of the other things that's quite cool about it is that these S Plus vaults actually are self-supporting, so all I had to do was get a foundation to the first one and then clip that in, and then the second one was supported by the first one. So there's nothing, this is actually floating, but it's so close to the ground you can't actually really see it's floating. And I think I had to do that to support this stable arch as well. This is from Eco's stable arch, stable mod. So yeah, it looks very simple, and it is simple at the end of the day. But it just looks a bit different, and that's kind of the thing that I like. And I like pretty much that. I mean, that's what I love about Ark. It's just the variety of being able to build. And who knew that things like not having foundation support? Some of the guys on this server have built, and they're awesome looking. Have built like floating sky bases, but I suppose this is the other end of the extreme for what you can do with not having foundation support on, is that you can have different aesthetics for what supports your base. So just carrying on. So this was we'll get to this, and this is pretty much all I'm going to show you, because there's bits of other stuff to show you, but I'm not sure if this is terrible or awful, but I'm just going to do a little bit, see what everyone thinks. So yeah, again, just in I like customizing things. I like making things non-standard. Some of the vanilla pieces and even the S Plus items are just they're not that aesthetically pleasing. They're a little bit basic. They're all a bit standard. And when you if you put 4 crop plots next to each other, just adding some extra texture in there by putting some bushes and some flowers in there, for me, just makes it a bit more interesting. Same with the what's Plant Species X turrets and stuff. I needed these. I don't particularly like the aesthetic of them. I think they're a bit weird looking. So I just planted all this stuff around them just to make them a bit more interesting. Anyway, babbling. So Monkey nearly missed this, but it is subtle. That's kind of the way I roll. So a little ladder up the side, and then this is into the kitchen. Excuse me doing a poop, just pick that up, you didn't see that happen. So again, this is pretty discreet, and Monkey moved through this quite quickly, and people might have noticed things in his video and wondered what it was or how I did it. I think Cracker's commented on like the shelves or something, and there are loads of things in here that look pretty simple, and Monkey said it's quite RP, and it is RP, and it's kind of the way I like doing things. So I originally built the structure. I'll talk about the structure and I'll talk about the things inside it. So I already built the structure on this little rock, and the little rock itself defined the size of this area. So I didn't have a lot of space. It's quite a small rock, but that was the challenge, was just to fit everything I needed into that area. So I have these two kind of areas that's like the actual. This is like my bait area, because we have the immersive taming, so you get all these cool new blocks and things, and then this is the actual kitchen area. So if I start over here, so structurally to do the building, yes, it is the green house double doors, and I've used them as like pillar supports because I've got this awesome view of the woods, and so I didn't really want to compromise that. I wanted to keep it like an open air kitchen, and so I have used the greenhouse doors, and I've painted those, and then I've put railings, and in order to get that snap point, because if you see there's this sort of just give myself a crosshair again, you see there's like two layers there, so that is on the, and I had to put a ceiling. Again, this is something you can do with foundation support switched off, but you wouldn't be able to do it otherwise, is that I had to put a ceiling snapping out from this ceiling, so coming out from there, put the double doors attached to the inside edge of that ceiling that was hanging out, remove the ceiling, and when I removed the ceiling these double doors stayed hanging, but they don't really look like they're hanging, they kind of look like they're just touching the edge enough. And then on the internal edge snap point of the existing ceiling, so the actual floor ceiling, I could then attach the stone half wall and the stone railing that turned into half wall, and then the metal railing, and painted those. So that's how I did the structure, and then a lot of jiggery pokery to get the ceiling up, and then me being me and a bit anal about things looking realistic, I didn't like the fact that it was a big floating ceiling. It didn't look realistic, it wouldn't have been supported, so I put this pillar in from the eco mod, and then and then that gave me what I needed, and actually that kind of then dictated the rest of the build. I didn't really have a plan for how I was going to fill this space, but having that pillar, and I knew I wanted to get some fridges in, gave me like a natural divide in the room. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll have it as like bait area and then kitchen area, and I'll get a bit, it's just a bit more interesting than having a big open area for me. So things to note in this area that again you probably wouldn't massively notice, but I'm hoping look aesthetically different or aesthetically interesting. So I think Trigger sort of noticed this, but Monkey didn't really notice this. But and this is the sort of thing that gives me strange, sick pleasure after hours and hours of labouring over it. But see that little shelf up there? So that little shelf isn't actually a shelf, because there isn't a shelf in the game that looks like that. There isn't a shelf in the game that looked slim enough for me, or would work with these herbs hanging down off the bottom of it from Eco's mod. So those are actually trays. So turn the HUD on. Those are actually the trays, the empty trays. And those empty trays look like they're being supported by the fridges, but the fridges don't act as walls, and you can't put the trays on a wall. They only stand on a floor. So if you see there, if you can read what my HUD is saying there is a glass ceiling hidden there, and that glass ceiling is what the trays are sitting on. But obviously, in order to get a to a point where that is where the shelf is, but I don't bang my head on it and I don't get stuck on the glass ceiling. I had to clip it back, so it's mostly actually recessed into the fridges, and in order to do that I needed a wall, and then because there's no clip point actually in the middle of that, I needed a fence foundation coming across the floor to put a wall up, to put a ceiling in, and that was a lot of trial and error. But I really like the aesthetic. I think it looks really cool, and it functions as well because I've got like stuff up there that I'm using and whatever. Bait station. I like these little bait station mods. They're cool. I like all the aesthetic things in any of the mods. So like ecos is massively my favourite. Again, same deal with that. Those topsides preserving bins look a bit boring, and if you just have them flat like that, it's just a boring texture to me, and I've done that a million times. So I clipped a shelf up there, and I think there's probably a glass wall hidden back there. Eco shop mod shelf sitting on top of it. Same on the top of the fridges over here. That one was a bit more faffing because I wanted it actually to rebate into the fridges. So again, I needed another wall hidden in the fridges, and then if anyone's done that, you get problems sometimes where you can't access the inventory of the item because you've got too many things clipped into it. Same with this one. There's another wall back there to put that shelf on top of that cabinet. You can't do that normally. You have to do some jiggery pokery to get that done. But yeah, the overall aesthetic for me. It's just layering and just having some more interesting textures and stuff. So yeah, that's like my fridges, and then this took me. I think some of the guys had like, I don't know, ascended by the time I finished this kitchen. I think some of the guys were level 95 and I was still like level 30 because I'd spent all my time building this kitchen, but it gives me pleasure and hopefully some of you guys like it. So this was the kitchen, and I love Eco's mods because they do all the things that I need them to do and that I want mods to do, and I think Eco, just the detail that she puts in is absolutely what I love and what I add, and so I use those as much as I can. So there's lots of pieces in this area. I think there's like 5 mods being used there, probably in that area. But if I just look at the and so Monkey just ran in and just went, oh, this looks kind of cool. It looks like it could actually be really a real thing, and it does look, for me it does look real, but there is so much work in this. So there's obviously the oven, that's just all standard puts in itself, but again, there's my little tray shelves up there. So there's a wall hidden in, a ceiling hidden in there. There's pipes to make it look like it's supported. There's the pots and pans hanging down from that, which you can't just hang them down from anything, so you need something to hang them down on. So it's part of the reason why I put that ceiling up there. And then actually when I first built this, I had the railing running round all the way around, and it just didn't really work. It just it was getting lost in the background textures because there's all that clutter, ground clutter, which I love, but just too many things visually going on at the time. So I knocked those back to black, made them solid metal walls. I think they look a lot better now. What else is there in here? I think that's pretty much it. Just lots and lots of layering. So obviously they're all hand placed. Glass bottles. That's 2 sets of shelves put together from 2 different mods. Another little shelf up there. And just like everywhere there is extra textures, little bits put down and layers and stuff. So yeah, that's my kitchen. I've got other stuff, but I probably won't show you that at this point because I've never done this before, and I don't know if this is awful or the sound is weird or how my quality's going to be. But yeah, so hopefully you like this, and
Cheers.
have a good day.